What is the strangest thing a guy has bragged about to impress you? Going to jail for hitting his ex. Very odd. I noped out of continuing chatting with a guy when he told me that his ex has a restraining order on him. He also complained that he gets ghosted a lot. Well, if you're dropping those bits of information during the first phone call, I'm not surprised. Do you do a phone screening with potential dates before meeting in person? I usually just text, but that seems smart. I do. I request FaceTime calls ahead of time. I've never been turned down for that. Last guy I dated bragged more than once that he had over 60 DVDs we could choose from to watch. 60. All I could hear in my head was Dwight Schrute saying I know everything about film. I've seen over 240 of them. Apostrophe. I think he'd faint if he saw my 4,000 DVDs. Participating in bringing refugees back to their war-torn country against their will. How he likes to be controlling in a relationship. And so on. Awesome guy. WTF. He bragged about bringing a gun on our first date to a restaurant. WTF. Why did he think he needed it? I was military at the time and I think he thought I would be impressed he knew about guns. I don't know how guys think. Even if knowing about guns is impressive, having one and bringing it to a restaurant on a first date screams not knowing enough about guns. An AT&T technician came over to hook up my internet and kept playing YouTube videos from his own channel and trying to get me to watch him drag race a shitbox Mustang while I was entertaining my toddler and waiting for him to finish. He was checking the speed and connection of the internet service. Like, dude, do your job and get out of here. Sounds like he was trying to act out the beginning of his favorite porno. How his body used to be 8% body fat. I had something similar like that once. Dude pulled out his phone on the pretext of showing me some of his photography. He claimed to be a professional photographer. As he was scrolling through mediocre images, because God forbid I touch his phone to scroll at my own pace, or be sent a link, so I could use my own phone. Suddenly there were shirtless pictures of him chopping wood with an axe when he was like 20. He slowed down his scrolling, so I could get a better look at those pictures, and wanted to know what I thought. Dude was 50 and no longer in axe wielding shape. I'm not sure what he expected my reaction to be. This is too funny. A boy once told me that he is incredibly good at finding acorns in any given location. A park, a desert, a frozen wasteland. I'm yet to have seen him procure a single acorn. Is he a squirrel? I do recall he did have a rather bushy tail. Having abnormally and uncomfortably large penises is the usual one. A guy sent me an unsolicited pic on Snapchat a few years ago and asked me what I thought. He was so proud of it. It was literally so uncomfortably large looking and looked too thick to be enjoyable. I asked how he sits down with that thing and all those other awkward questions not related to sex. He didn't know how to react, saying he's never been asked those before. He ended up blocking me after that exchange. That is an amazing backfire he never saw coming from sending an unsolicited pic. High five. It brings me laughter whenever brought up. When I get that stuff I reply with I'm 16. Throws people all the time, especially when we haven't met yet. In a conversation once where a guy mentioned that he's hit 3 deer while driving, separate incidents each time, it was relevant to the conversation. And it wasn't said with an ounce of pride. Another guy, a weird one who kept trying to get my attention, apparently thought this was something worth one-upping and literally said, oh, that's nothing. I once hit 5 deer and 20 different black cats in one night. There are so many layers to how strange a thing that is to fabricate and brag about. Still can't wrap my head around it, but still weird as hell. This has me cracking up. What an absolute freak with no clue how to talk to other humans. The entire convo screeched to a halt and no one knew what to say. It was legit one of the funniest things I've witnessed. 20 different black cats is really killing me. In one night. I suppose this is a feat of some sort. Yeah. I'm imagining the guy hitting his 3rd deer and 12th cat that night and how he's thinking to himself that it's a good idea to drive some more. I would kill anyone who even looked at you wrong. Nope the F out of that one fast. I'd seen the gun in his car he was so proud to point out. It was in the floorboards loose and sliding around. I think he thought that'd impress me. Because I grew up around firearms and had military and law enforcement in our family. Nope. He just showed me his entire future of being in jail either from losing his cool and shooting someone on purpose or just being an absolute moron and shooting them in an accident. I wasn't waiting around for that. The next week my uncle pulled him over and busted him and found way worse. I got a lecture about being more careful who I went out with in the future. Bullet dodged. Literally. What he find? Drugs and a whole lot more guns not registered to him and ammo in the trunk of the car. Unsecured, along with duct tape and rope. Eek. Oh, the open can of beer didn't help either. This was a minister's son, by the way. A good boy from a good family. /s. Guy, who do you like more? Cats or dogs? Me, cats guy. Then watch. I can jump over that cat on my bike. Edit. I yelled no, why would you do that? No. He was visibly confused with my reaction and didn't do it. He was 8 right. Somewhere in the middle of his heart. Yes. Or what? I traveled to more countries than you. I have more passport stamps than you. Okay. And I travel a lot too, but never something I brag about or put in someone's face. Degrading people on the first date. Awesome. Knowing when a woman is on her period because they smell different. I had a guy try to gaslight me into telling me I was on my period. I definitely wasn't because he insisted I smelled like I was. Did you tell him he must be full of shit? Because you could tell. Because he smelled like it. Having some kind of weird genetic bald patch in his beard under his chin. He was adamant about how rare and special this was. It's so rare and special I swear every BF with a beard has shown me a bald spot in their beards. His vehicles. How shitty he treats the women in his home. I don't let my sister go out all by herself. My mom does all the household work on her own all the time. He was so proud of it. I love when they basically just tell you how shitty of a person they are without even knowing it. As a woman in the Middle East, a lot of people celebrate this kind of behavior. So many brag about it. But trying to convince them this is stupid is so hard. No idea how men think. IQ. Several men felt the need to tell me their IQ score. One told me he was a member of Mensa. All because I have a graduate degree. I always let them know that EQ is greater than IQ. Ugh. Yes. Similar situation here. One guy, a very proud Mensa member who got really hung up when people didn't know some factoid he felt they just should know, was genuinely puzzled when I said intelligence wasn't the thing I valued most in people. Asking me what else could I care more about. It was sad. Really. He bragged about dating another black girl in the past. He got mad when I said I'd dated plenty of white men. Wow. Talk about lowering the bar for himself. Bragging that he's not racist while being racist to boot is so cringe. Gross. Girl. I'm glad he showed himself early. I called my Mormon ex racist. He argued that he wasn't, since he dated one black girl once. I was like, oh yeah. How'd that relationship end? He told me his family, especially his father, made her uncomfortable with comments about her skin color. Yikes lmao. You know, I'm on Reddit. Yes, you and like million other people. OMG. My friend had a guy send her a snap of him opening a beer and opening Reddit. It had the caption of best Saturday night or something lame. She asked me what it meant, and I was like, it means he's a ref loser lol. I says I'm on Reddit lmao. He showed me pictures of his kid, who was cute. He then started telling Northeast how he never goes to see her and that she is actually 2 years older now, but doesn't have a recent picture. Also bragged about how he doesn't pay child support. No doubt. I have no idea why he thought being a deadbeat dad was sexy. Oh god. I have an ex that had 2 kids with 2 women. His daughter he would see on occasion, acting like the mom didn't allow many visits. His son was 2. And he would say the most awful things about him, like how he was a little because he just wants his mom. Like really, I can't imagine why a child wouldn't want to be around you. Boy bye. Wow. He sounds terrible. Hope his kids turn out better. It's like he's announcing, if there is a pregnancy I plan on peacing out and complain about my kids to random strangers. Having some sort of special credit card. The color probably meant it had a huge limit or something, but I cannot express how little that matters to me. I had a friend who was obsessed with having a real cool looking credit card because he wanted to impress the ladies with it. Wasn't even going to use it. Just said it looked expensive and shut. I was so confused. To him everything had to do with impressing women though. Was his whole personality by college. This probably isn't strange, but in the context of the situation I was in, I thought it was lame. This guy at a club tried to hit on me. This was back in college and he bragged about how he was going to medical school and he probably knew more about science than my TARS. He would then pause with a smirk and kind of wait, almost as if he was expecting me to fawn over him. What he didn't know was that I was a biochemistry major and I had had one of his courses that he had to take. At our school, it was known that those on the pre-med track didn't have nearly as heavy/difficulty of a course load as those in the hard sciences track, because their advisors prioritized getting GPA over taking challenging courses to the point they would preferentially take easier versions of the course. This was back in 2011 to 2012. He asked me eventually what mine was, and I told him it was biochemistry. He just looked at me and kind of deflated like oh. I smiled and told him bye. Username checks out. His wealth and IQ. Smart people don't feel the need to brag about their IQ. Many rich people don't like calling attention to their wealth, since it attracts the wrong kind of crowd. Treating women like shit. How he could have totally fucked the niece of a celebrity. This was on a date too. So bizarre. Love that one. Like dude, if you could have, you would have. If only to tell everyone in a 100-mile radius. This is not the brag you think it is. How much he prefers Asian women. I'm Filipino. Then he proceeded to tell me that Filipinos have the best asses. Woo, so charming. I had a colleague who'd often hit on me brag about how he started smoking cigarettes at age 12. I've never smoked, and it's one of my biggest turnoffs. But I guess he thought it would make him seem like a badass. It didn't. I had an ex-boyfriend brag about losing his virginity at age 12. I just thought that was really sad and fucked up. He showed up really late to our date and then was bragging about his Catholicness and how he wore a cross necklace all the time. Insisted I come to church with him. His third strike came when he bragged about how much money he has. We were 18 and he kept talking about it and finally said I could buy you anything you want, and so I said, great. Can you buy me some food to go, and cut the date short. Went home with the meals and had it with my friends at home. Absolute baller move. Respect. I read this in my head like Ali G. He seemed to think we was cool and tough because he didn't find horror films particularly scary. He then went on to pester me asking me if I found certain films scary with a grin on his face, clearly expecting me to say something like oh yes. I couldn't make it past 10 minutes. Little did he know I love horror films, and the films he was asking me about weren't even remotely good in the first place. About his need to control women in relationships. I want to say I noped TF out, but this was almost halfway through our relationship, and I was struggling hard to get out. I wonder if he read Mayor Banks' books to try to figure out what women want. Honestly, he was just a piece of shit, but he still reeled me in for almost 3 years. So I think the joke's on me with how many I ignored. You got out in the end. That's the most important thing. I'm proud of you. Internet stranger.